Terminé. Elle a souffert cette équipe d'Argentine. Difficile à décrire en tribune tellement il a été magnifique.
Le match, c'était difficile pour l'Argentine il semblait peut-être en avoir les possibilités.
Oui, la première mi-temps est très de facture et on a eu beaucoup plus d'émotions. Ils ont vraiment pensé se mettre pied qui ont pris avec ce deuxième but en deuxième mi-temps et les Australiens
I see. I see. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see. Naturalization. Naturalization. Hi guys. Do you know what this is? Let me turn down the volume. Some process of naturalization. I think that's a fancy word for I'm becoming one of them. Apparently after 10 years that you've lived in Switzerland, you can make a request to become one of them, a Swiss. I'm half Italian and half Scottish. And so then I guess, will that mean I'm a third Scottish, a third Italian and a third Swiss? Is that how it works? I really don't know. Let's discuss this together. What are you? Where are you from? How many passports do you have? Legally, I have the possibility of having 2 passports, but I've only ever had just one. Always had the British passport, somewhere around here. I hope you forgive me for smoking. I've only ever had the British passport, but I could take out an Italian passport. And after this goes through, which apparently this process takes about 1 year to become Swiss, and this is me just receiving this whole, it's quite a lot of paper. Receiving this, so then I will have to do this whole process of becoming Swiss. Maybe some of you didn't know this, but because I'm half Italian and half Scottish, maybe not necessarily because of that, but in Italy, growing up in Italy, I was always seen as the Scottish, the Scot. And then I moved to the UK, and in the UK I was always seen as the Italian. But it wasn't like any tragic thing, it wasn't sad in the slightest, it was just like a defining feature. Just like in these Guy Ritchie movies where you always get somebody who's like the Serb or Mikey the Pikey. I was always like Michael the Scot or Michael the Italian. And I was fine with that, But always, I never felt as if I completely 100% blended in. Like I always had loads of friends, always was good, but I never had that complete belonging. Also because these systems, the Italian system and the British system, I like them, they're part of me obviously, but they're not completely my system. I think no system is ever going to be completely your system. But the Swiss system actually, by and large, agrees with me more than these other 2 systems, the Italian and the British, which are mine from birth, essentially. So I think it's so important to really believe in the system that you live in. And so in the British system, for example, it was always too much rules are rules for me. Anytime I asked somebody to like bend a rule or to just like, I would say that my situation was an exception, or I would try and just negotiate a little bit. It just never really worked. It was always like, nah, rules are rules. And maybe also I was younger, and maybe I was less eloquent, I don't know. I was definitely poorer. But then yeah, rules are rules. So the mixture of like the really kind of rules are rules, no flexibility whatsoever, in a number of situations, whether it's like a pair of shoes, it's not exactly the perfect pair of shoes to go to the gym, or anything else bureaucratic. It was always a bit of a nightmare. And And the weather also is like, doesn't really agree with me. Instead in Italy, the system is really messy. It's a messy system. Like lovely country, lovely weather, lovely food. But the system itself is a bit messy. Everybody does what they want, and then you can't have that either as a system. It's too flexible. There's all these exceptions. Doesn't make sense as a system. Just I was in Italy at the weekend, in Milan. And the bus driver in Milan, he got off the bus and he went into the middle of the bus to give a guy into trouble because this guy was shouting at another guy. Imagine a system where the bus driver in like Italy's biggest city gets off the bus, starts doing this, shouting at a guy, giving him into trouble, like probably legitimately. I didn't really hear what had happened, but he was telling him like about having like some values and being like well behaved. And see, in Italy, everybody's a bit of a vigilante. I've seen it all my life in Italy. It's just because the system is rather kind of weak and nobody really believes in it, then everybody has to kind of take matters into their own hands. Everybody's always saying like negative things about everybody else. Oh, everybody's so badly behaved. So the people have to take it into their own hands, and you can't have that. Another funny thing I heard in Italy just a few days ago, I was in an Airbnb flat and I heard an electrician, and he was just going around different flats, probably sent by like the main agency controlling the building to check up on the electric system. And I heard them knock on a door, and then all I heard them say to the person that opened up was, "I even knocked. What do you want me to do?" The guy must have been telling him to F off and saying like, "How dare you come here," or something like this. And the guy just says, I even knocked, like, leave me alone. So you get all this kind of like far west. Italy's very much far west a lot of the times, which can be fun. And anyway, which brings us to this, Switzerland. Compared to these other two countries, Switzerland for me is just the perfect in between. What do I mean by that? Switzerland is very much a country based on one-to-one negotiations, which I really like that. It's happened to me countless amount of times to just mess up, and then you have to go and speak to somebody, and then you say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I messed up in some contract related to the phone, or I didn't pay that," or something like this. And you can speak to people, and then they see that you're a normal person and they can understand your situation. They see that you weren't trying to like fool anybody. And so more often than not, then they just say, "It's okay, just like don't pay the penalty," or whatever. Even like a film school I've started to go to in the evening, I tried to sign up, and there was like loads of issues. And then when I finally had the possibility of signing up, because there'd been a technical glitch on their side, when I finally had the possibility of signing up, then there was no more places. It said you can't sign up anymore. And I thought, "Oh my God, this is awful." So I phoned the guy and the professor of the film school, and he saw the situation. He saw that I'd tried loads of times, it was a technical glitch. And instead of saying, "Nah, rules are rules, computer says no," as it would have happened in the UK, the guy says like, "I see that you've put a lot of effort into this, and I'll open up a few extra places, like just so you can sign up," basically. And I really appreciated that. This like happens all the time in this country, all the time, and I love that. But it's obviously not just because of that. It's also, I really like this country. It really agrees with me, and I think it's becoming, at least for me, it's very important to live in a place where I really agree with the overall mentality, which is essentially an overall mentality of you can do whatever you want as long as you don't break other people's balls, which I really, really appreciate. And there's just a general harmony in this place where everybody wants to kind of try a little bit hard socially to just be nice and harmonious to everybody else. I really, really appreciate that. And of course there's issues just like in every place, and I don't agree with everything in this system. Just, I didn't create this system. If I'd created it, then it would be perfect. But for me, it's got issues. But by and large, I really, really love this system. So that's why getting accepted into a system they haven't accepted me yet, but there's this whole thing that I need to do here. Apparently, I need to go through this stuff, but getting accepted, or in the process of getting accepted into a system that you believe in and that you want to be part of, is very, very important. And everybody just seems so nice and harmonious, and actually, also, I've always been perfectly integrated because I've got many friends. I'm quite sociable. I don't know about many friends, but definitely many acquaintances. And I've also always really tried hard in the integration point of view, and I've always been completely. I've realised this is not my country, and I had to somehow adapt, and I also, so I think I've made it easy for people to somehow, welcome me into different things, whether it was like the football group or the job or anything else. So actually, as I was saying, I was the Italian guy when I was living in Scotland. I was the Scottish guy when I was living in Italy. And I came here to this place, and I was the same as everybody else. Just the same. I felt it the first second I came here. I was exactly the same as everybody else. And that for me was lovely. Also because in the centre of Geneva, it's not that easy to find Swiss people. Swiss people tend to live a little bit out of the centre, and it's already a system where 50% of the people are immigrants, have moved here. 50%, that's gigantic. And maybe in other places, if you bring in 50% of the people, that could start to get quite messy. Everybody's got their own ideas and everything. Instead here, I don't know, everybody, as I said, this thing about harmony, everybody seems to want to believe in the same thing, and everybody tends to work hard. A lot of people have been cherry-picked from other countries because they were particularly good at their jobs. So that, I don't know why it works, I really don't know why it works, but it seems to work really nicely here, and especially the manners that you feel everywhere. Just people are really well behaved by and large, they're really well behaved, and everybody's respectful of each other. I say everybody because I like to exaggerate, but it's people are mostly respectful of one another, and everybody, when you look at each other in the street, you say bonjour, and I like that. You look at each other in the eyes and you say bonjour. Bonjour. It's nice. Instead of people just being a bit shifty, looking away. And when you meet somebody and you're just meeting them and actually greeting them, starting a conversation, you kiss each other. It's always nice to get a bit of human contact. And yeah, it's a place that believes in hard work and that. So it's cool. Oh. Maybe one of the bad things about this country is the amount of admin. Oh, it seems to be a massive amount of stuff here that I need to do. Yeah, it's true. Especially in the UK, you never really feel too much like you're a citizen. You just, in a good way, you just the government never really speaks to you too much, and I never really received that many stuff from the government. Here instead, it's you're constantly reminded of oh yeah, you're a citizen, and you could do this, you could vote for this, or you could take part in these some initiatives. So they really like their admin here. They're constantly sending stuff, and even this process looks like it's going to be massive. But no, fantastic. So yeah, as I said, I think it's important to live in a system where you believe in that system, where you've got some sense of, I think that helps the sense of belonging that you could have, essentially. So maybe one for the thumbnail, like this, with my naturalization thing. I'll put that after, like this. A silly smile, silly cheesy smile with my cigarette. Like that. That's going to be nice. A nice thumbnail. Naturalization. So yeah, so I hope you live in a place where you have some kind of appreciation for your system, and if not, then I think it's probably good to consider moving. And no, definitely this you want to live in a place where you kind of agree with the overall mentality that exists there. Otherwise, life would just be a nightmare. Unless you're quite good at just compartmentalizing life and just saying, okay, I live in a place, it's really shit, but my family's cool, my friends are cool, then I guess you could do that. But I'm quite sensitive from that point of view, and I can adapt to some things, but I find it really difficult to adapt to other things, to be honest. And so I like to live in a place where somehow the rules agree with me, and the overall kind of feel of the social fabric also agrees with me. But anyway, don't want to ramble on too much. And yeah, I was going to say I hope you found that useful, but I don't think there's anything useful in what I said. So I just wish you all the best, and I hope you're having a nice time, and I hope you live in a place that has a system that you agree with to some extent. And I'll see you soon.